Hey, this is Shay with Trucks to Sales, here today doing a video on lift axle placement. Here with me I have a 2019 Freightliner 118 SD here on my left with two steerable lift axles mounted in front of the drive axles, and on my right I have a 2019 Peterbilt 567 also with two lift axles. It has a steerable lift axle in front of the drive axles right there and a non-steerable lift axle behind the drive axles. So today we're just going to talk about a few different configurations, lift axle configurations, and why you might use them or why you might not want to use them, as well as for some different applications like tank trucks, vacuum trucks, water trucks, as well as dump trucks. So the different application also might have you deciding on which lift axles to put on your truck. So the first thing we should talk about here is the bridge formula. So the reason why you typically put these lift axles on your truck is to increase your bridge formula. And in most states, the longer your truck is, the more weight you can carry. And the length of the truck is measured from the center of the front axle right there to the center of the rearmost axle there. So that determines the length of your truck. But there's also states where they have construction truck exemptions. So depending on what type of construction truck you have, you might be exempted from the bridge formula and be able to carry extra weight. Also, depending on what material you're hauling, you might be exempted from the bridge formula. So that's definitely the first thing you need to think about here is your local and state regulations. But for the most part, the majority of people, you're going to be in a state where the longer your truck is, the more weight you can carry. And the more lift axles you have, the more weight you can carry. So first, we'll talk about the tag axle. And that's placing a lift axle behind the drive axles right there. So the main reason why you would do that is to increase your bridge formula and carry more weight while having a shorter wheelbase. Just to make sure we're all on the same page, the wheelbase is measured from the center of the front axle to the center of the drive axles. And on this truck there's two drive axles, so it's measured right there in the center of those two axles. That would be the wheelbase. And the wheelbase is going to determine how maneuverable your truck is, how tight of corners you're going to be able to turn. And the longer the wheelbase, the worse turning radius you're going to have. So both of these trucks have similar axle spreads, but the tag axle truck has a shorter wheelbase, so it's definitely going to be a lot more maneuverable. But as you can see right here in this picture angle here, the front of the truck is only about maybe 12 inches higher than the back of the truck, and this lift axle is all the way up and it's almost hitting the ground. You know, we got about an inch off the ground there, and that one's all the way up. Some of the lift axle kits vary on the ride height, but this is a pretty standard ride height. So you can imagine if you're trying to go in a steeper driveway than this, your rear axle is going to be dragging on the ground. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of off-roading, or you're in some mountain community, something like that, pulling in a bunch of people's different driveways, you could see how that axle could be a problem. Same thing with backing in a driveway. So this is just kind of a regular driveway here, but backing in this driveway, that lift axle is going to be close to bottoming out as well. You know, and bottoming out, this lift axle is on a consistent basis can tweak out and ruin the lift axle, as well as get your truck stuck possibly where you're losing traction and you're high centered. So that's definitely something to think about with that rear lift axle, is how much uneven ground you're going to be driving on. Where you can see with the lift axles in front, backing into a driveway or driving into a driveway isn't going to be a problem because the drive axles are right at the back of the truck. But one of the negative aspects to putting the lift axles in front of the drive axle and having that longer wheelbase is high centering the truck. So you can see, you know, we got a big long truck here, and these lift axles are all the way up right now, and we got about 7 inches of clearance here in the middle of the truck. So that's going to make driving over any humps more difficult, where you could be bottoming out the truck, whereas the truck with the rear tag axle has a shorter wheelbase, so it's going to be harder to bottom out the truck. Let's say if you were driving over a curb or a hump or something like that on a job site, it's going to be harder to high center, which is in the center of the trucks right there. It's going to be harder to bottom out the truck right there. And you can see even the lift axle right now in this configuration is not in the center there. It's more towards the back, where if we head over to this truck, you can see with the lift axles in front of the drive axles, your high center point is basically landing right where a lift axle is. So really, either way, you are losing ground clearance with these long trucks and with the lift axles. But let's say you park in a place where there's a steep driveway or something like that, and you're going to be bottoming out your rear tag axle every single day, then you definitely want to think about the other configuration. There's also another con for the rear tag axle that's kind of unique to dump trucks that wouldn't really apply to a tank truck, unless you, of course, you had a dumping tank truck. But with the rear lift axle, the frame, you actually have more flexibility. Because that lift axle is back, the frame can twist more. And since the dump truck body is typically hinged right at the back of the frame here, you're ending up with a situation where the dump body can rock side to side while it's up in the air more easily on a tag axle truck. So it might seem like you're on more unstable ground because of the tag axle, because of the twisting of the frame, where when you have the tandems right at the back, it's really stiff because of the cross member and all those things. There just isn't as much twisting when you have the tandems right at the back with the dump truck body up in the air. So it really comes down to stability. So with the rear tag axle, you're going to have less stability while dumping a dump truck or a dumping vacuum truck. And of course, the longer your dump truck body is, or the longer your vacuum tank is, that's already decreasing your stability. So if you're asking my opinion on which of these configurations to go with, I would go with the rear tag axle configuration, because typically, you know, maneuvering is a lot more important than high centering. You know, it seems like having a higher maneuverability in a truck is going to have a lot more benefits than necessarily the ground clearance. And you can see with both configurations, they both have their ground clearance challenges that you have to deal with. But having the more maneuverable truck with the shorter wheelbase is definitely going to benefit you all day, every day. You know, every corner you turn is going to be easier with the shorter wheelbase. And if you're really worried about stability, getting these walking beam suspensions, you can see both of these trucks have Hendricks and Hallmax. That walking beam suspension is really going to increase your stability over an air ride. So just stepping up your stability with the walking beam is going to make dumping a truck with a rear tag axle easier and safer. And there's one more benefit as well to the rear tag axle, which most people don't think about. You can still put a tow hitch back there, and it makes your trailering more maneuverable. Because of the tail swing, turning corners, it allows you to turn a sharper corner while pulling a trailer. Also, we have more information on our website under our info section, and click on trucking info, and then you'll see we have dump truck varieties explained, which is going to give you more information on the different configurations, as well as the state trucking regulations for each state, which is going to tell you the different bridge formulas. Hey, this is Shay with Trucks to Sales. Thanks for watching our video. We're going to go ahead and put a little slideshow here of the different lift axle configurations that we've done, and definitely if you have questions about any of this stuff, don't hesitate to give us a call. Speccing out these trucks is what we do all day, every day.